Hey everybody, welcome to part 6 of In-Depth Looksie, and in this part I'm continuing on with the Wargear and the Skitarii Codex. So, I left off finishing the melee weapons, so now we're looking at the special issue Wargear. From there we're going to look at armor, Skitarii vehicle equipment, and relics of Mars. And then I'll go over something else for Wargear, not new Wargear, but what it is, it's basically the Skitarii Wargear list, and that's the list that you can choose from when it says, you may pick from the melee weapons or special weapons list and so on and so forth. And then some closing thoughts and statements. So let's get right into it. Remember, I'm not going to necessarily cover profiles or stuff too in depth, but I will make sure you get the idea of how this stuff essentially operates. So starting off with the conversion field, and the conversion field gives you an invulnerability save the same as a Rosarius, but if the bearer passes one or more invulnerability saves in that phase, be it he got shot at or it's an assault phase or whatever, and you pass an invulnerability save one or more, all units within these 6 inches of the bearer must test for blindness, essentially. They do a blind test, essentially, and friendly units can re-roll this result. So that's the gist of it. You can potentially blind things within these 6 inches of the guy who has the conversion field if they make a successful invulnerability save. Can be good, can be bad, depends on what happens, right? So that's the conversion field. Digital weapons function like they do in other Imperial codices. So after digital weapons is enhanced data tether. And the enhanced data tether, what it does is, I'm basically going to have to read it. Whenever a unit with an enhanced data tether is affected by the Doctrina Imperative, all models in the unit add 1 to the leadership characteristic on their profile until the start of your next turn. Note that this is not cumulative with the effects of a broad spectrum data tether, which is in the Skitarii vehicle equipment. So that's pretty interesting. Nice little added bonus if you have that. And you do the whole Doctrina Imperative thing. Up next is the Info Slave Skull, and basically what it does is the model equipped with the Info Slave Skull adds 1 to his leadership and gains the Acute Senses special rule. Mine Scrambler grenades, these are grenades that can be used in the shooting phase and the assault phase. And in the shooting phase, it has a short range, basically 8 inches, no strength, it has an AP of 4, and it's a grenade, so it's got an assault 1, it's blast, it has haywire and neural trauma. So that's basically everything about the grenade in the shooting phase. And neural trauma means hits caused by a weapon with this special rule always cause a wound on a 2 wound roll of 4+. So it's haywire and it's basically going to be wounding on a 4+. So that's pretty cool. Now in the assault phase, it basically kind of acts like an assault grenade in a sense. Plus, you can use it against vehicles in the assault phase, and in that case, it has a different profile. It's got a strength 3, AP 4, haywire. So, pretty universal grenade. Up next is the Omnispecs, and the Omnispecs basically cover saves taken against attacks made by a unit that contains at least 1 model equipped with this. Is made with a -1 modifier, so it gives a negative to cover saves to attacks from a squad in which there's an Omnispecs in it. So that's pretty cool. Refractor field functions as normal, as it would in the Imperial Guard. It's a lesser invulnerability save than a conversion field. Basically the same as Terminator armor invulnerability saves. Up next we have armor. Skitarii Warplate. Now Skitarii Warplate straight up gives you a 4+ armor save. The Skitarian battle armor gives the same armor save, but it also gives a 6+ invulnerability save, and you're going to see that armor only on your infiltrators and your what's the other one called? What is the other one called? Why am I blanking? Your infiltrators and your rust stalkers. So that's the armor. Now for Skitarii vehicle equipment, what we got is 2 things that are universal. Searchlight and smoke launchers, that's in the 40k main rulebook, pretty standard for vehicles to have stuff like that. And then first up is the broad spectrum data tether. Now the broad spectrum data tether does the exact same thing the enhanced data tether does. The only difference is it affects all models and friendly units with the Skitarii faction that are within 6 inches of a model with a broad spectrum data tether. So the same thing as the enhanced data tether. It's not cumulative with the enhanced data tether. But the broad spectrum does basically the same thing, only it's like a little beacon, and anything within any friendly Skitarii faction unit within 6 inches of it gets the benefit. Up next is Emanatus Forcefield, and this is a 6+ vulnerability save for a vehicle. It's only on one vehicle, so I would have liked to see it maybe be a 5+. Same thing with the Skitarian battle armor, but 6+ is better than no plus, right? So there you go. And lastly is the Mind Scanner Probe, and if a unit within 6 inches of a friendly model equipped with a Mind Scanner Probe is charged, the charging models do not gain bonus attacks from charging. However, if the target unit was already locked in close combat from a previous turn or has gone to ground, the Mind Scanner Probe has no effect and the attacker gains bonus attacks as normal. Just a nice little defensive thing for when you're being charged. Could help make the difference, you never know. But that's all the Skitarii vehicle equipment, so that's all the standard equipment, which means we're onward to the Relics of Mars. Now the Relics of Mars, only one of each of the following relics may be taken or chosen per army. They're the super special unique stuff that every codex has. In this case, it's called the Relics of Mars. And up first is the Arcan's Divinator, and if the bearer of Arcan's Divinator or any model in the bearer's unit identifies a mysterious object or deploys or moves into a piece of mysterious terrain, you can choose to re-roll the result when determining what that mysterious objective or piece of mysterious terrain is. So my bad, but basically it's not object, it's objective. So if the bearer or his unit identifies a mysterious objective or deploys into or moves into mysterious terrain, you get to re-roll the result if you want to determine what that mysterious objective or mysterious terrain is. Can be handy, situational but handy. Next is the Omniscient Mask, and this makes the bearer have this Zealot special rule. So the bearer of the Omniscient Mask has the Zealot special rule. There you go. Pater Radium is one of the funny ones that I like. Fluff-wise, it's essentially the heart of a nuclear reactor that a model is carrying around. And if the bearer of the Pater Radium is locked in combat with one or more enemy units, at the end of the Initiative 1 step, each of these enemy units must take a toughness test using the toughness value of the majority of the unit, or the highest in case of a tie. If the test is failed, the unit takes d6 randomly allocated wounds with no armor saves allowed. I find that pretty cool. It's not going to always work in your favor, but it's funny nonetheless, and if you combine it with Skitarii Vanguard, it can be a little bit more effective. I just find it funny that the model's carrying around a heart of a nuclear reactor, and is considered a great honor to do so. Up next is the Phase Taser, and this is a taser melee weapon, so strength +2, no AP value, melee taser, and then it has interdimensional electrocution, and that special rule states that any model that suffers one or more unsaved wounds from a weapon that has this special rule must immediately pass the initiative test or be removed from play as a casualty. Basically, you electrocuted them and popped them into a different dimension. Just, whatever, typical stuff. Up next is the Phosphoenix, which is one of the only surviving Phosphac weaponry left, and Phosphac is pretty potent stuff. So, in the fluff of 40k and all that good stuff. So, Phosphoenix is a pretty potent pistol. It's a 6-inch ranged pistol, strength 5, AP 2. It is a pistol. It has the Luminogen special rule in it, and it has the Phosphac special rule, and it has the poisoned 3+ rule. So Phosphax, when firing a weapon that has this special rule, a successful to hit roll scores 3 hits against the target unit instead of 1. Pretty cool. I like that. So pretty potent pistol. And lastly is the Skull of Elder Nicola. And this is a funny one as well. Once per game, the bearer of the Skull of Elder Nicola can unleash its power instead of firing a weapon. To do so, you roll a number of d6 equal to the current turn number. So, if it's turn 2, you roll 2d6, turn 5, 5d6, and so on. The total rolled is the range of the attack in inches, and all enemy vehicles within range suffer a strength 1 no AP hit with the Haywire special roll. So a nice little flavorful thing. The fun part I like about it is that if you didn't catch on, it's basically hinting that it's thought to be the skull of Tesla. So that, the Phase Taser, and the Pateradium are some of the more fun relics that I know of in 40k period. So that's pretty cool. Lastly, I want to go over the Skitarii Wargear list to show you what is actually considered to be options that can be upgraded to for some units. Now, obviously, some units will also have their own unique Wargear optional upgrades, but this is the ones that when it states, hey, they can pick from the ranged weapon list or the melee weapon list or whatever, this is what they're referring to. So the ranged weapons list, a model may replace its ranged weapon with one of the following: a phosphor blast pistol, radium pistol, arc pistol. This is for your squad leader, essentially. Same thing for the melee weapons, and they may take one of the following: a taser goad, power sword, or arc maul. Special weapons, a model may replace its ranged weapon with one of the following: an arc rifle, a transuranic arquebus, or a plasma caliver. Special issue Wargear is a model may take any of the following, and that is a refractor field, conversion field, or digital weapons. And you cannot take a conversion field if the model is equipped with a refractor field, so it's one or the other. Relics of Mars, I just went over those. A model may take one of the following of those if they're able to take from the Relics of Mars list. And then Skitarii Vehicles list, this is for vehicles, and they can take up to one of each of the following: Cognis Heavy Stubber, Smoke Launchers, Mind Scanner Probe, and a Cognis Manipulator. The Smoke Launchers may not be taken by a Dunecrawler equipped with an Icarus array. And the Phase Taser, which is a Relic of Mars, replaces the melee weapon of the unit of the model if it has one, and Phosphoenix replaces the model's ranged weapon, but it cannot be taken by Ruststock or Princeps. So, nice little addition there. And that's everything. Overall, I really am a fan of the weapons in this codex and the Wargear. They're all very much in theme with the Mechanicum that the Skitarii is a part of. And very few are more the universal type of stuff that any Imperial Force has. So I really like the uniqueness of the weaponry in here. Some of it's more fun and fluffy than maybe super effective, but I like it. I like the Pateradium, that Phase Taser, and the Skull of Elder Nicola. That's pretty cool stuff also. It's just kind of fun, and I like kind of fun stuff. And lastly, I just want to say, in the armory section of this codex, it has artwork of the Phosphor Blast Pistol, the Phosphor Serpenta, the Stub Carbine, Plasma Caliver, Arc Pistol, Galvanic Rifle, so on and so forth. And they're kind of scattered. The ranged weapon and the melee weapon stuff is kind of scattered throughout the armory section. I'm bringing it up because while it's cool, it's also very nice to help you determine which bit is what. Now, I don't know how well the instructions that come with these kits will tell you what is what, but if you're having trouble, you can look at the bits and see, oh, this bit kind of looks like the Phosphor Blast Pistol. It must be the Phosphor Blast Pistol. So, always cool to see the artwork, but in this case also pretty handy considering this is unique Wargear we haven't seen before, and it might be a little bit confusing on what is what. So I wanted to point that out as well. Anyways, I'll save my theory ramble on what I mentioned in part 2 for another section, or I won't bring it up here in any great detail. I'll do it another time. But that's it for the Wargear section, which means we're up to talking about the units themselves. So part 7, I'm going to start doing that. I'm probably going to start off with one of my favorites, which is the Skitarii Vanguard. So stay tuned for that. Anyways, thanks for sticking through it, and until the next one, take it easy.